Yeah.
Amazing.
My issue is we don't know how much, we don't know, we know the library is not gonna be completed because they still don't know. We don't know how much it's gonna cost, and by the time 2050 comes, we don't know what public transportation will look like. So we will have spent all of our money on something that's outdated. And then we won't have money for something that's cool.
Right, so we can go forward.
Well, I mean, like,
I get what you're
I
saying.
live and work on the library, and it takes 3 times to
Okay.
get to work on the library versus in my car.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like for some people, if you run a library,
So,
try to get
I
it.
just got some props.
No, I could, but it will take 3 times longer to get to work.
I guess, yeah, that's true too.
You're okay with any potential
That
repercussions
makes sense.
of like,
It's whatever.
let's start boxing her, mind whatever you
I
have.
already got to that date.
All right, my name's Dan Schultz. I'm a precinct committeeman in the Republican Party. I'm an attorney. I used to be chief counsel at the Department of Education here in Arizona for a couple of years until the new person got elected. And then I was shown the door. It's probably better for all of us.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm all about recruiting precinct committeemen. Our Republican Party here in this state, if it was at full strength, would have 11,553 precinct committeemen. That's one person for about every 125 voters in a precinct. And the quota, the number is determined in March of every 2 years, based on the number of registered Republicans in your precinct. What I'm going to talk about tonight, though, is something a little bit different, and that is going into this presidential election cycle, something maybe you probably didn't get taught in school was, who is it really who elects or chooses the nominees for the parties? Anybody know who that is?
Public school education.
Okay, I'll get you to it here in a few slides. So, so the presidential preference primary, remember we were gonna have one, the Republicans were gonna have one? We did in 2016. Is the outcome of that presidential preference primary, the one we're not gonna have now, because we decided not to have one, does that do it? No, it doesn't. It's meaningless. It's a straw poll. So, what about the primary election? We're gonna have a primary election, and there's gonna be an outcome for the primary election. There's probably, there might be 50 Republican candidates who qualify for the ballot, and there'll be a ballot, but the outcome of that doesn't determine who our nominee is in the Republican Party, and it doesn't in the Democratic Party either. So again, who is it? It has something to do what?
Oh, I just
The electoral
said,
college?
I
No.
just said, that's the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah. So it starts with the letter D. So you gotta work backwards from the party's respective national conventions to get to the letter D. So there's rules for these conventions. The Republicans are gonna have a big convention, the Democrats are gonna have.
Delegates?
What?
Delegates?
The delegates are who choose the nominees, right? Thank you. But who determines that it's the delegates? It's the rules of the respective parties. So apparently the two parties don't want you to know this, okay? And the Republican Party, even though over half of its precinct committeeman slots are unfilled, they don't want you to, apparently they don't want you to know. Go on the internet and try to find this out. You're not gonna find anything. You're not gonna find it at GOP.com. You're not gonna find it at Democrat.org. And the State Board of Education are here in the state. I was able to get some basic American civics into our standards while I was there. I was able to like sneak it under the rug and got the state board to vote it in. But prior to that, they don't have to teach you anything in Arizona about any of this according to our standard. You didn't have to before. Now you have to at least. You're supposed to be taught how the electoral college works and who selects our electoral college? It's in here. I'm going to get to that. But think about it. Who is it? How do they become members of the electoral college in this state? Anybody know? So again, here's the D. Delegates to the National Presidential Nominating Convention select the respective nominees. According to these rules that are determined by the national committees. Now, our rules have just been agreed upon for the Republican Party. I don't know about the Democrats, because I couldn't find anything online. But our rules were ginned up this fall and over the summer, but I don't have a copy of them yet, because they don't want anybody to see the rules. But I'm gonna get myself a copy of them, one way or the other. I got some avenues for that. So, how do you become a voting member of the national committees? Who elects these people? The Republican Party, I'm not gonna talk too much about the Democrats, because I don't know that much about their party, but I know the Republican stuff pretty well. So how many members of the Republican National Committee are from Arizona? You know? There's 3. There's 3 from every state. The 5 territories and DC are considered states under the rules of the Republican Party, and each of them gets 3 voting members. The territories and DC members don't have full voting rights, but the others, the 150 from the states do. Every state chairman is a member. So ours, we have a 2-year term for state chairman. So Kelli Ward's one of them. And right now, Bruce Ash and Lori Klein Corbin are the National Committeeman and National Committee woman from Arizona. There's 168 members. They determine these rules. So here's a quick overview of how it works here in Arizona. So we get 1 precinct committeeman for every 125 or so registered Republicans by statute. They directly elect the county committee and the legislative district committee officers. They directly elect 1 state committeeman for every 3 of them, and then the state committeemen directly elect the state chairman. Those precinct committeemen who were elected or appointed, and this is the key tonight, which I'm trying to impress upon you, you still can become a delegate. You can become one of these delegates to the state convention if you're a registered Republican and got registered before the end of this calendar year. And you can greatly increase your chance of becoming a delegate by going to a caucus meeting as an appointed PC, because only the precinct committeemen elect the delegates. There'll be a caucus meeting in every one of the 30 legislative district committee areas on a Saturday in March, probably, and the precinct committeemen who attend are the only people who can elect the delegates. So in 2016, in my legislative district meeting, my caucus meeting, a whole bunch of Trump people came. They were registered Republicans, and they were Trumpers, and they wanted you to vote for them, but nobody really knew who they were. So we had a slate of Trump people who were precinct committeemen. We all voted for one another and got elected delegates to the state convention. So the most powerful political office in the world right now, if you want to have an impact on who's going to be our nominee for the Republican Party, or if you're a Democrat for the Democrat Party, is to become a precinct committee. So this is a chart that I created that depicts that graphically, and I'm not going to go through it because I kind of already did. I'll send this PowerPoint to you if you want it. Just give me your email address after the meeting, or I can send it to you. Or, yeah. Right now, for example, in the Arizona Republican Party, we've only got about 45% of our precinct committee slots filled. So that means there's only one of us for every 300 registered Republicans. And it's the Democrats are in the same boat. I think they have even fewer, but they rely on public unions to get out the vote. So who selects the Electoral College members for the Arizona's Republican parties? Anybody know? You know?
I actually don't know that one.
It's the chairman of the party that was elected by the state committeemen who were elected by the elected precinct committeemen. The precinct committeemen elect one state committeeman for every 3 of them. This is by statute, it's in the statutes. And so Kelli Ward is going to select the members of our electoral college, and only Kelli Ward has that power.
So, my question would be, are those electoral college members bound to vote for the party's nominee or?
They take an oath.
Okay, so.
That oath is determined by the party. So in 2016, one of them
We had some
was,
abstain, right?
well, one of them said she wasn't going to follow her oath. In the end, she did. And then we had delegates, some of whom said, I'm not gonna go, and they were bound by an oath to vote for the,
I remember that,
yeah, Linda Brickman, do you know her, who she is?
I do.
Yeah. She called me up and I told her about something else, and I told her, Linda, I heard this, that you're thinking about violating your oath. If you do that, your name will be mud for the rest of your life in Arizona, because you will not be able to be trusted in the eyes of people who are fellow
Do
Republicans.
they have to,
And she changed her mind.
so as electoral college members, do they have to vote for the nominee? Is there like, by law, like, is there a forcible
There's a law
action?
that, you know,
I know no one is probably.
there's no,
They switched out, I thought.
there's no jail time or anything,
No, I thought
You
they
go
got,
to jail.
I thought they had like backup people, so if someone decides not to follow the rules, they're out and they're switched
Just
to
for
someone else.
delegates, right?
No, not for electoral college members.
Oh,
They're
And-
pretty permanent, right?
Yeah, and so it's really important who these people are. So Robert Graham got to do it 4 years ago, and one of the people he selected was not such a good person. I don't know who Kelli Ward is gonna select. I'm sure she's gonna select herself, and she has the power to do that. Robert Graham did the same thing. So, and then another thing that people don't know. Okay, let's say that a legislator from my legislative district is 18. Let's say one of the people keels over and dies. We're all represented by Democrats right now, unfortunately. The precinct committeeman of legislative district 18 and only the precinct committeeman from that party get together, and they have a special meeting, and they select 3 people to have their names presented to the county board of supervisors, and then the county board of supervisors selects 1. So it's not the voters, the precinct committee. So that's why it's another reason why it's really important to become a precinct committee.
How many people in the room are PCs currently? Raise your hand. So anyone, as long as you're a Republican, you can become a PC member.
Yeah, and here's my first problem. So I just recruited a lady today. Before I came over here, I went to her house and gave her the form. This is the complicated form for becoming an appointed precinct committeeman in the Republican Party. You fill out your name, your address, your phone number, date of birth, your voter ID number, all of which will be looked up by the county chairman. You give them an email address, you don't have to, and then you sign that you want to become one. And you attest that I live in the precinct and I volunteer, and that's it.
There's a second way.
Then you get to go to that caucus meeting and vote for delegates.
There's a second way, but that's only once every 2 years, and we can't do that until summer of next
Yeah,
year.
and that's, you have to get elected, and that's real simple. You have to get 9 people, because you get to sign for yourself. 9 Republicans who live next to you or near you, or independents can sign for you. And then you sign on the back that you got the signatures, or you can pay somebody to go get the signatures. And then you have to fill out a 1-page affidavit. Used to have to be notarized. Legislature changed that, doesn't have to be notarized anymore, which helps. Because that was always, and it basically says, I live in the precinct, I wanna run for precinct committeeman, here's my name, how I want it on the ballot. The reason, if you live in Arizona, and you've been voting in Arizona, and you probably have never voted for a precinct committeeman, is because only have the numbers off the top of my head for 2016, but in 2016, we had 728 precincts in Maricopa County, and only 21 of them had contested elections for precinct committeemen. That is, more people tried to become a precinct committeeman than there were slots. When it's the number of candidates is equal to or less than the number of slots, they don't print up a ballot, because it saves, by statute, it saves money. So you win by default. So did anybody teach any of this in school? You ever remember getting this in grade school or junior high? I learned all of this back in Wisconsin in the late 60s when I was young, in junior high. I learned all of this stuff, but they don't teach it anymore. Because the progressives don't want anybody to, and that they get on the school boards and they make sure that the books don't have this stuff in it. So what is a political party? Easy definition. Here in Arizona, we get the Arizona Republican Party is not the registered Republicans. The Arizona Republican Party is the precinct committee. If you want to have a say in what the Republican Party in Arizona does and what the RNC, who's on the RNC, you're not going to change that by donating money, but that's what they want from you. And our political parties, thank God, are not part of government. We get elected here in Arizona through this primary process because we got together, the people lobbied the legislature and said, hey, the political parties don't want to run their own primary elections, and they don't want to have caucus meetings for electing precinct committeemen. Will you spend the money to put us on the ballot? Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
So I actually would prefer a closed primary.
Oh, yeah, right,
But
sure.
I was gonna ask your thoughts on
Yeah.
that, and
Oh,
then
I would too, yeah,
I do like the idea of a caucus. I've never been in an actual, because we don't really have a caucus here,
right.
but they seem like fun.
Yeah.
But I like that a lot better than what we're doing now, but what are your thoughts? And I don't think there's probably any appetite to switch over, but I'm just curious what you think.
Well, there was talk 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I remember, where some of the legislators were thinking, look, why are we spending all this money on these primary elections? Let's let the parties do it themselves.
And the party fought back.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know which is the best system. I've seen videotapes of caucus meetings, primary caucus meetings in other states like Missouri
Mhm.
and some states back east, and sometimes they're just really corrupt.
The only reason why I bring up the caucus, because I remember when Senator out of Utah resigned, I don't remember who, Senator Bennett, but he had to go to
Yeah.
APC to get their vote.
Yeah, they had a caucus,
Right.
they had a caucus, for, instead of a primary.
Right.
For US Senate.
Which I thought was
Yeah.
really kind of cool, because
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
he never made the 40, you had to get 40% or you were out on the
Mhm.
first ballot, he didn't make it, and he started crying, because it was his seat, it was his dad's seat. Yeah, that was a great thing, and the reason that happened, a whole bunch of Tea Partiers registered as Republicans, went to the caucus meetings where they lived to become delegates to that convention, and I wrote an article about it for, at Red State.
Well, don't we often have where like we have a primary in Arizona for one party and the other party doesn't have a primary? So they often encourage Democrats to register as an independent to vote in Republican elections
Yeah.
for the primary.
Yeah.
And no one thinks that this should be ended.
Well, I think it should be, we should have closed primaries if we're gonna have a primary election. So how do you become a member of a political party? And have you ever been to a political party meeting? Well, I've already showed you how you do it. If you wanna become an appointed precinct committeeman, you gotta do it like right now. Because it's gotta go to the Board of Supervisors here in Maricopa County. If you reside in Maricopa County and you wanna become a voter of the delegates next March, if you're gonna be here, you should come see me and I'll give you the form and I'll help you become a precinct committee. Then next August, there's gonna be a primary election, and that's where you'll become, you have to go get signatures to qualify for the ballot, no more than 10, The number varies on how many Republicans are in the precinct. There's a precinct near here, I think it's over that way, where you needed 3 signatures. So I knocked on the door of a Republican, and I said, would you like to become precinct committeeman? What's that? And I explained what it was. And I said, you only need 3 signatures. You can sign for one another. And then the woman chimed in, yeah, we can get Larry, our next door neighbor, he'll sign for us. They got their signatures, they became PCs. I haven't seen them lately at any meetings, but I'm not in their legislative district anymore, but hopefully they're still sticking with it. So, do you guys get mail from the RNC? If you made a donation ever to any Republican, you're probably getting mail, okay, from the party. Because that's what they want. They want your money. But have you ever received a mailer from the Republican Party, be it the Arizona Republican Party, the National Committee, RNC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the National Republican Congressional Committee, saying, I want you to become a precinct committeeman? No, you never will. And they don't want you to become precinct committeeman because they like things just the way it is. Even the conservatives, David Schweikert, he was a precinct committeeman since he was 18. When he goes and speaks, he doesn't encourage conservatives to become precinct committeemen anymore. Because he doesn't want the status quo to change in his district. Because what if somebody challenges him who's more conservative than he is and runs like as an outsider, like, David, what have you been doing since you've been there? You haven't accomplished a thing. He doesn't want anybody to have those new precinct committeemen get out and vote for him in the primary. Yeah.
Question, when Kelli Ward first took over, the first thing she did was do a campaign on getting a lot of people registered as PCs, and I think she's...
Registered as PCs? You don't register as to be a PC.
Well, appointed.
Okay.
Whatever.
And what's been her success rate?
I think she's gotten well over 1,000.
No, she hasn't. I know the numbers.
But I mean, you're saying that no one promotes that, and I'm just questioning that.
I'll give you the numbers. When she became chairman, there was 2,695 precinct committeemen who had been elected in the primary. Oh, I'm sorry, that was 2060. 2,654. You said she got over 1,000?
No, I'm saying, no, my question isn't that. I don't know. You'd have to take how many are no longer PCs versus how many have been added to be able to figure out.
Okay, well let's just look
but
at.
my point of contention isn't how many have been added. My point of contention is that it's not a fair statement to say that no one in the party has been doing that, because that's the first thing she promoted was.
Okay, so what are the results?
I don't really care what the results are. My contention is that
I do.
My contention is that she did promote that, and I think it should be fair. You should just be fair.
I've only seen it on social media.
I'm being fair. I'm just looking at the results. Right now, the latest numbers, in Maricopa County, we went from 2654 to 2985. That means we went up about 5 percentage points increase in 10 months.
You still
Statewide, we're at 5,325. That's 46% filled. When she started, it was about 38% filled. So we just haven't made any progress.
Well, I would say I don't think that's a fair statement. And to be fair, I've been known as not being a supporter of Kelli Ward in the past. I ran against her in 2016. But I think it's important to be fair to progress that's made. She has put in significant effort to make sure that we increase our PC numbers.
I listened
She
to her.
has organized a team of people to do that effectively, and to look at those numbers, you'd have to look at how many people are no longer PCs, and then look at the subset of how many have been added after you look at the numbers that have decreased.
I listened to her for 3 hours on Seth Leibson with Mike Shaw. 3 hours. They had 3 hours to talk to a conservative audience. Did they talk about, hey, you folks out there listening, we'd really like you to become a precinct committeeman, because right now in Arizona, only about 40% of our slots are filled. I didn't hear that once. I've listened to her speak all around the state. She doesn't talk about it. But she wants you to think that she's
She
talking
does
about
talk
it.
about it. I've heard her talk, again, I'm not even someone that has been known as a supporter of her, she does
Well,
talk about it.
I'm not gonna argue
They
with you, I'm
haven't
just
even
telling you,
special
and I'm
meeting.
not here to be fair, I have an agenda, I want conservatives to become precinct committeemen. That's why I came here tonight, to try to educate people. So anyways, these are who the precinct committeemen elect. And the state committeemen elect the state chairman and the other officers. The state chairman serves a 2-year term on the RNC, and in the presidential election cycle, the state chairs have the sole power to select the party's electoral party members. And so the good news, over half of the PC slots in our party are vacant. Still. And it's real easy, as I've shown you, to how to become one.
I got a question here,
Okay.
so I knowingly, I ghost PCs in too, are you okay? Like, what are your thoughts on ghosting?
I want
I-
conservatives to become Republican Party precinct committeemen, and if they can help me get out the vote. The lady I recruited today, I sat down with her and I said, here's what I need, all I'm gonna ask you to do in my precinct, 3 hours of get out the vote in the primary, 3 hours of get out the vote in the general, and if we fill up all the slots, we'll make a significant impact in increasing voter turnout. In my voting precinct, my precinct is among the top, and so that's all it takes. So if you wanna call that a ghost,
I'm not sure, I think,
I
what
know
I
what
think
you're
of,
talking about.
like paper PCs, like when you register people just to be PCs so you can have more.
I don't do that, I
Okay.
try to recruit workers.
Okay, I mean, it's allowed, and I think if you can use it, sure, some people have different opinions, I'm not really,
Yeah.
like, doesn't really matter, I was just wondering what your thoughts are, cause I know there has been some movement to try to eliminate like paper PCs by
Well-
like making sure they like come to meetings, or
Right.
making sure they show up twice a year to a statute meeting or something like that, so.
Yeah, but the bottom line is this. How much money are you gonna spend getting signatures for somebody to get on the ballot every 2 years? The McCain Grassroots Arizona PAC, which isn't from Arizona, it is in grassroots, they did it. They spent a tremendous amount of money doing that, trying to get these ghost PCs. Costs a lot of money. And then, after the election, if there are still vacancies, the county chair doesn't have to appoint anybody. So this lady today, I'm gonna put in her paperwork, but if Ray Charnanke, the county chairwoman, says, I don't want any more precinct committeemen, this slot, from here on out, she won't get appointed. But I know Ray's not gonna do that, because Ray understands that, gee whiz, look at our county, we're at
Right.
46% strength, we need precinct committeemen. So we'll take anybody who's willing to do the work. So how much do you have to read to figure this stuff out? The good news, again, not very much. It's all in statutes, so this is the sum total of the statutes that govern it. Most of this you don't have to read, because the party has a precinct committeeman handbook. And then the bylaws and the rules are, these are the rules of the Republican Party, the national party. But most of it is stuff you'll never have to read. The important stuff is how to become an RNC member, and that's what I've highlighted here, just a couple of pages. Our state bylaws, very little, hardly anything to them. And again, it's all about, the offices and their responsibilities. This is a copy of the Maricopa County Republican bylaws. There's not much to it.
So for
I legislated District 18, few pages, and it's all online. That's the good news. More good news. I'm all about good news. Go ahead.
So for anyone that's worried about like, well, isn't that a lot of time out of my schedule that I should be in classes to put into this? They only have like one meeting per month, and it's different for every LD. 18's like every second Wednesday.
And you'll be emailed an agenda, and if you don't want to attend, you don't have to attend. Precinct committeemen are volunteers. Nobody can tell you what to do. You're top dog.
And there's like 2 important meetings every year. Those are the ones that you really have to go to.
Yeah, so GOP.com, there's where you can get the rules of the Republican Party. Democrats.org, I went there, they don't publish their rules online. They don't want anybody to know what the rules are. The Republican Party bylaws are online, the county bylaws are online, the legislative district committee bylaws, most legislative district committees have websites now. When I started in 2009 here, 2007, the county, Maricopa County didn't even really have a website. But the webmaster moved to Georgia and they didn't have the password. They couldn't even get in to change it. It took them about 6 months. But a lot of that's changed. And then the statutes are all online. And so we've got a site called rightlanenetwork.com where we try to outdo the party in terms of information that's succinct in there. Lisa Gray created beapc.com for Maricopa County. It shows you soup to nuts how to become a precinct committeeman. All the stuff I showed you tonight, either an appointed PC or an elected PC. And then my little project is the precinctproject.wordpress.com where I put all this information as well. So you got 3 months left, but really I think only 2 months, because I don't think there's going to be a county board meeting in December. Again, the chairman has the sole power of whether to submit. I believe she will submit. County board of supervisors have to approve. You don't have a statutory or a constitutional right to be a precinct committee. The only right that you have is to run for a precinct committee. And political parties are private clubs. They're like yacht clubs. They have their own rules, the government that can't tell them to do anything, and you don't have a First Amendment right at the meeting. It's all run by Robert's Rules of Order, and our political party committees are private. But if you're just a registered Republican, you're not really in the party. Only the precinct committeemen are the party. So every state's unique. In some states there's caucus meetings instead of the way we do it. In Texas, on the day of the primary, if you want to be a precinct, and they call them precinct delegates, you have to stick around at the polling place, and then there's a caucus meeting. And you just raise your hand and say, I want to be the delegate for this precinct. I think they have 1 male and 1 female. Ohio, you have to only get 5. Their system is very similar to ours. You have to get 5 signatures. And so it's different in every state. So now it's up to you. This is that Norman Rockwell thing, and that's me. So if you want my PowerPoint, just come see me and I'll give it to you. If you don't have one of these, this is a thing I put together. Like a precinct committeeman fact sheet that explains a lot of the stuff that I mentioned. If you don't have a citizen's rule book, it has the Declaration, the Constitution, and a juror's handbook. I give those away. It's printed by Whitney Printers here in Arizona, and I'll answer any other questions that you have.
I'm pretty sure we have paperwork from a long time ago from you that we can hand
Oh,
out to you.
yeah. Let's see. Also,
Yeah, please.
if you want an application for a precinct committeeman appointment form, here.
I can always brush up.
We got these from you like
Oh,
a few months ago, yeah.
I brought some of those too. This also explains everything succinctly. And then here are my precinct committeeman cards. If you want to take one, call me and I'll walk you through it on doing it. The way it works is you fill out the form, we scan it, and then we email it to the county chairman, your legislative district chairman, and then keep a copy yourself, and then they'll process it. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep, you're welcome.